Hey everybody, welcome back to Battle Ready Inc. So today's deck profile for you is my baby of the format. If the lights didn't kind of give it away for you, we are talking about red-yellow hybrid. This deck has done wonders for me for this format, but now that I've really done a lot with it, I do think I'm going to put it to the side because I know a lot of people do not enjoy playing against it because it is absurdly strong, and going to play something else a little bit more fun in the meantime, but this deck is phenomenal. Also got a few little alternations that you could make with it that I'm going to talk about at the end as well. You'll see them as soon as you see the full deck. Also, don't forget, though, our new memory marker this month is Gummymon. So if you're playing some green deck of any type, or you're just a Gummymon fan, Terriermon, or Gargomon, this is a great memory marker to get. Also complements our Cocomon if you got a Cocomon. This is handmade out of clay by my wife, hand-painted as well. You can find this on our Etsy page, along with all the previous memory markers that we featured on this channel, as well as some of our Battle Ready Inc. merch. Alright, so as always, I've got the whole deck for you guys pulled up all at once so you can just kind of follow along and kind of see the thought process behind some of the cards that we're including as we work our way towards it. We are 4 cards over, and that's just because the 4 cards I have here at the end are just kind of some talking points when we get to them. But the first 2 rows is the main part of the deck. So a lot of it is kind of self-explanatory. Some of it, not so much. So there are some really good talking points throughout this. First up, Digimon. Of course, we're running the Digimon Guilmon package. So when attacking, you're going to draw 1 for each of these guys. So it's a draw 2 engine. You get a security check. This is really great. When we get to it, we're going to talk about Tainkari. But Tainkari, each one of them reduces the DP of security Digimon by 2,000, and also the Sakuyamon by another 3,000. So your Guilmon, a lot of the times, especially towards the mid point of the match, can start swinging in and not dying to security checks. And when that happens, it feels so good. And your opponent always has to put in work to remove the Guilmon off field, whether that's wasting attack or whatever. Either way, I mean, however much you want to look at it, he's a draw 2 engine when he attacks, but also you Evo, so that's 3 draws you get out of this little guy. You get a security check out of him, which is phenomenal. In addition to that, if your opponent wastes an attack swinging over him or using a removal option on him or something like that, that's just even more value. That's almost like a recovery right there also, like a security recovery that your opponent has to take care of instead of like getting a security check. They have to clear the Guilmon instead. Phenomenal card, absolutely wonderful. Not really a good alternative to use in place of him. I've had some people ask before because he is a little bit expensive. There's just not a really good budget option for him. If you do, you really just got to tailor the whole deck a whole different way because nothing else is going to get you the same amount of draw power really. You can maybe work in the the starter deck version and then add in like 1 Gallantmon that he can warp into maybe, and you'll still get the Evo for or the draw for the Evo, and then the draw for the Gigimon, and then just the potential for the warp. I guess that's an okay backup, but man, the draws is where it's at. You really need some draw power in this deck to keep up with these OTK decks. You need a lot of speed. Next up, of course, we got our yellow hybrid package here, our Kazimon, our Zephyrmons, just because this is a yellow hybrid deck. Why do we still play yellow hybrid? Because tamers are a nuisance for the opponent to deal with. A lot of decks aren't running any sort of tamer like hate, okay? Even Death Xmon has seen a lot less play right now, so tamer-based decks are in a really good position, and playing out a tamer is like playing out a rookie that your opponent can't clear, and that's just good value in itself. And then a lot of these tamers are like rookies that have insane amounts of value and insane amounts of effects that are really, really powerful. So tamers are really solid, even still, even without the Jet Sylphie here, which we are still playing out of 1 of. The idea of this deck is to recover. Yes, it's a yellow hybrid deck, but I play it in a way that we use a lot of recovery between the Jet Sylphie, the Shakuamon, and the Seraphimon, as well as the Zoe and the TKs, taking out things out of security to put new things in. You see our option lineup is thick. Our removal option lineup is massive. So the opponent has a lot to deal with when they swing into our security. So we're running a whole lot of security recovery in this deck because it deals with OTK decks. I mean, literally, if Grandis swings into this security, they almost never survive. Like, I've almost never seen a Grandis survive in security checks, just because by the time they get into Grandis, I've done a decent amount of recovery, or at least swapped a lot of cards out of security with my tamers, that it's pretty thick and pretty stacked at that point, so it's always terrifying for them. I am running the 4 Shakuamons here. I did opt to put in just 3 to just replace just straight up the Jet Sylphies here, but honestly I didn't mind the 4 of it. Still felt really solid, just to kind of increase the chances of getting our level 5s. We've got 8 level 4s, 5 level 5s. That feels like a pretty solid ratio, and then 4 level 6s. Now the only reason I'm running 4 level 6s and not just like 3 is just because I'm running 2 different ones, and I just would like to see both of them every single match, just in case I need one or the other. I like to have both in hand at the same time for the situation that I'm in, so that's why we run the ratios that we do. I know it's a little bit out of the norm, but that's the reason why. Okay, so instead of like 3 Ophanimon fall down modes, I'm running 2 Seraphi, 2 Sakuya. Seraphi is just the recovery 1 instantly. I don't have to be below a certain threshold. That's what I really love about Seraphimon, is if I want to go early game aggressive, Seraphimon is the ticket. Kazuchimon, I can Evo for 3 and still get my security attack +1, but I don't get that recovery also. Seraphimon is just the best of both worlds. I get a little bit of recovery, I get my security attack +1, I get my recovery at a discount when my security is low. It's just great. And my main point is I like to go my level 5, get me up to 6, and then go into Seraphi, get me up to 7 security. At that point, Grandis struggles to OTK, because usually it's only checking 6 security with the most generic of builds. They can go a little bit more advanced, but that takes them longer to do so, to get up to that point where they can check 8 at one time. So just putting myself at that 7 makes them take an extra turn or 2 to get to the point build to clear 7. So either way you look at it, it's a solid investment. So Seraphimon, really great, really like it. Only 10,000 DP, but again, when you combine it with stuff like the Tai and Kari, I mean, he's really easy to survive and get all these great security checks, even at only 10k. Sakuyamon is in here because of the opponent's turn. When an opponent's Digimon moves from the breeding area to the battle area, it gains security attack -3. Absolute detriment for both Grandis as well as Alphamon. You play this against Alphamon, it forces out an early turn promote. So whether they just go Dorugreymon and pass turn, you know, it's like, okay, well, your Dorugreymon is protected. I can't use any of my options to kill it this turn. However, when it goes back to them and they go into like their Alphamon and the Aoryuken, and that Aoryuken goes in to swing into security, it doesn't have that protection anymore. It only gets it for the 1 turn. So while I can't use any removal options on it, my security the next turn sure can, but also if they choose not to use the Dorugreymon, say they want to save the Dorugreymon for the next turn after that, so they just leave their level 4 setting on field, I'll just pop the level 4 and go about my business. I mean, I've got plenty of things in here that are cheap that can pop a level 4 super easily, that it's still totally fine. So Sakuyamon, for both of those reasons, and again against Grandis, they want to just stick their Grandis on, or not their Grandis, but their Grand Kawagamon on field for me to remove. Sure, yeah, go for it. Or even their level 5s. If they want to promote up early because of the Sakuyamon, I just get to pop all of it. So great card to deal with OTK decks. Absolutely wonderful. Sometimes you don't even want to swing in with security into security with your Sakuyamon. Yeah, she can lower security Digimon by 3,000, making her way more likely to survive. But sometimes I just don't want to risk it. Unless I can combine her with multiple Tai and Karis, so I know I could swing over something like a Death Exmon at 15k. I need that insurance. I need both the Sakuyamon and a Tai and Kari minusing at least 5,000 on that security before I swing in it with my Sakuyamon against those matchups where it's imperative that Sakuyamon sticks to the field. So yeah, great megas. Love both of them so much. I do still have the 2 Death Exmons. I did say that Death Exmon has fallen off in this format, but the way I looked at it was my alternatives were I could drop the Death Exmon and I could bump up my Crimson Blaze. But at that point, all the situations where I'd want to run Crimson Blaze, I could just run Death Exmon and just kind of get the same amount of value out of it, roughly. But Death Exmon being a little bit more versatile, because I'll get that D-Digivolve also, and that D-Digivolve timed out really nicely, can be super powerful also. So yeah, Death Exmon just felt like a little bit better than Crimson Blaze in this situation. So I went ahead and opted for just the 2 of them, just for those niche situations where it does come up, and it is very, very powerful. If you saw the finals of our in-store championship, you saw the power of Death Exmon hitting the field and being very impactful. I do have the one Susanomon in here, and this is just to deal with like any sort of mirror match, whether that be yellow hybrid specifically or the more traditional security control, the yellow-purple build variant that you've probably seen going out there. It's not a variant. It's not yellow hybrid. It's just a yellow-purple security control deck. That deck can get really grindy. So a Susanomon for those matches is so important because usually those matches literally come down to who decks out first, and you've got to have a Susanomon to guarantee that you're not going to deck out before they do, because I think this deck does have better draw power between the Guilmon and the Digimon and that sort of thing. We do draw better than the yellow-purple deck does, so you really need the Susanomon to just get those cards back in your deck to deal with that deck, as well as the occasional mirror match when it does come up. So for removal options here, I've got 3 Gaia Force. Why I opted for the Gaia Force over something else was mainly because of D-Reaper. I really like the Gigimon package and the Guilmon package for the draws, and the draws has been very, very good to me. So I opted to go for the red route rather than like the purple route because the what is it? The one that stacks to security dodges a ton of effects. It dodges the Alphamon, the Dora-Greymon protection, all that kind of shenanigans. A lot of, anti-destruction effects. It dodges really nicely, but at the same time, that really changes up the engine of the deck. And so I'd really have to go out of my way to form a whole different type of yellow-purple deck, incorporating yellow hybrid, and the draw power of the Digimon just kind of sold red for me. So Gaia Force being super great at removal of pretty much most everything. Great against D-Reaper, that sort of thing. Great against Grandis, obviously. Great against Metal Garurumon, that like the Garurumon X decks, really good against those. The only thing it has an issue occasionally with is against Alphamon when it has that protection on it, because you can't do Sunrise Buster either because no DP reduction and can't be destroyed. But that's why we play cards like Sakuyamon, or we just do an insane amount of recovery that there's no way that they can OTK us. So that's how we get around the protection that Gaia Force and Sunrise Buster can't afford, is that we just use cards like Sakuyamon, or we would just recover beyond their means. And that's how we deal with Alphamon. But besides Alphamon, this deck does impeccable. Absolutely impeccable against all the other OTK decks, or just really fast-paced decks in general. Magnamon, all of it. It's so good against all these decks. So we are playing 4 Sunrise Buster. This card is so good. I would get to play a red or tamer card from your hand without paying its memory cost. Then one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 3,000 DP for the turn for each yellow and or red tamer card you have in play. Now, you can't spread this out because of the way it's worded. It's only one target gets minus 3k for each tamer. It's not for each tamer you have in play, apply this effect. That's how Shine Greymon reads, and that's why you can split Shine Greymons up. But the way this is worded is you can only pick one target and then amp up the number for that one target. But still great. I mean, at a 5 play cost, I'm essentially playing this for 1. I'm going to be playing a tamer anyway half the time. So if the fact that I can play a tamer and do some DP minusing for essentially 1 memory, I'll absolutely take that trade anytime. So that's why we run a 4 of this. Not necessarily just because it's removal, but because I get to play a tamer for free and I get to clear a body on field. I mean, for essentially 1 memory, yeah, that's a pretty good trade. I can just, at 4 of, I can kind of shotgun these off and just keep playing them numerous times and not really have to worry about, oh, I've only got 2 copies of this in my deck. I got to really make this count. I got 4 copies. I can blow through these pretty quickly and not worry about it. Next, I got the Fireball in here. This is a great card. 2 play cost, pop a rookie, 3,000 DP or less, or draw 2 if there's nothing to pop. Just a solid card. I like the versatility of it. I do use it a lot to pop rookies, whether it be memory blockers or a big one that I've noticed against like Biostar is sometimes they'll promote up these rookies before they actually go into the level 4 on top of them, and you just pop those rookies before they can get those inheritables online. Great, especially like something like a Gabumon that gives on like a draw 2 trash 1. Yeah, just go ahead and pop that with a Fireball for 2 memory. Yeah, easy. In those situations where you're like, oh, this is not a good hand, okay, I'm gonna Fireball, just draw 2. Like, also feels very, very good. I I love the card. I think it's a great include. Only running it at a 2 of, though, has felt just right. I don't want to go too overboard on this because it is in large quantities, it can be a little bit of a little too much. You don't want to waste too much memory doing this over and over and over, but in small quantities this has felt really nice. I do have the 2 Crimson Blaze in here also. This was a flex spot for me that I was trying out a different card originally, but it kind of just kept coming back that I just really like the Crimson Blaze because I can reduce the play cost of this down so much. And in those situations where you really want to use Crimson Blaze, typically it's when your opponent has numerous things at 6,000 DP or less and you just want to pop a whole bunch of things, and that's great for Crimson Blaze because I can play this for like 2 of and pop 4 things. Really phenomenal card. I put it back in the deck mainly because of D-Reaper. D-Reaper likes to go really wide with like their Jerrys and that sort of thing, and on my turn their DP is super low, so Crimson Blaze just like clearing out their whole field feels very satisfying. Also seeing this card get hit in security is often very satisfying. We got the 1 reinforced memory boost. This card's still fantastic. I mean, 6 play cost, you get a recovery and a card to hand, and you get to pick what your recovery is between 2 cards. It's stupid good. Like it 100% deserves to be at 1, and we'll still play it at 1. Same with Jet Sylphie. We're gonna play it at 1. It's at 1. It's still a phenomenally powerful card. We're gonna play it. We're not just not gonna play it because it's not consistent. Okay, we're still playing the same basic strategy. We're just recovering. Why would I play multiple Shakuamons and not play a Jet Sylphie? That just doesn't make sense. Same with Reinforce. Phenomenal card. The other removal option I was going to play was Eden's Javelin. This is what I started playing with first. I was thinking with between the Gilmon, that crazy amounts of draw power we got going there, what is it? It's not Pyrosphere, sorry, it's Fireball. With the Fireball, we would have tons and tons of draw power in this deck. But it's just 50-50. Some games I do, some games I don't. Some games I'm playing out a lot of Tamers and just building up this massive board of Tamers, and then I start drawing into the rest of the pieces that get me draws. So some of these games, Eden's is just trash, and I'd just rather have the Crimson Blaze than the Eden's most of the time. If I need to pop something big, I've got Sunrise Buster or Gaia Force. Most of the situations where Eden's comes up, I can just use Sunrise Buster and essentially do the same thing and for less memory, and I get a Tamer in play. So yeah, Eden's just kind of fell off for me. The draw power just wasn't always there for my hand to be absolutely massive, so I just didn't really feel like the need for it. I just feel like between the Fireball and the Sunrise Buster, we've already got everything covered that Eden's does, but we just do it more efficiently and with more powerful of cards. So yeah, we ended up dropping the Eden's and putting the Crimson Blaze back in. For our Tamers, though, we've got Tai and Kari. I've already talked about this numerous times. Being able to reduce the opponent's security Digimon DP by 2,000 when you attack. For each one of these guys, that's so strong with our between our Guilmon as well as our Seraphimon. Like, this card really pops the deck off to a whole nother level. It's the reason we can play cards like Seraphimon is because of this card, making them 100 times more likely to survive. As well as, I love this card, particularly because it rewards players for being offensive with this deck. Normally, a security control deck or a yellow hybrid deck is very like, okay, we're gonna just wait in our little bubble, okay, until we're ready to win, because we want our TK and Karis to give us a whole bunch of memory because our security is lower than our opponents, and we're just gonna wait in our little bubble until we're able to go Susanomon for game. And I hate that strategy about this. I've always liked to go offensive with this deck. It's like, yeah, we play a whole lot of recovery and like security control as strategies, but once we get those bodies on field, what do you do with them? Like stuff like Ophanimon. It's like, okay, I've got this really nice body on field. Do I just not attack? Or do I just start attacking, and if I die, I just bring my level 4 back and then keep going, right? I could do that, but then it makes my TK and Karis less live. But this card just rewards you for going offensive. And so start of your turn, if you have 3 or fewer security cards, gain 1 memory. If your opponent has 3 or fewer security cards, gain 1 memory. So I can put my opponent down to 3 super easily. That's 1 swing from Seraphimon checking 2, or I can get an early game Guilmon check and then just check 1 more time with like a random hybrid or something like that to get them into that nice comfortable 3. And once I get them in that spot, and most decks don't have a way to recover back up above that, so then my Tai and Karis just get insane value for the rest of the game. So then I just start playing out more and more and more. Once someone hits 3, particularly my opponent, because I can recover up up above 3 again, but my opponent most of the time cannot. So I get really good value out of these guys. Next up, we got the Zoe in here just to fish out any hybrids out of security. We are running a limited amount of Digimon, so it is imperative that we always have enough to win with. I have run into the situation of I'm controlling the crap out of them. They can't do anything, but I can't draw a body and stick a body to like start putting in damage myself. And so cards like Zoe are very, very good for that exact reason of pulling out those hybrids out of security for you. But only at a 3 of, I did cut this down just to fit in more choices for options. Also with the loss of 3 Jet Sylphie, that's almost right at a third of our targets gone. So Zoe lost some value in that regard just because there's less things that you can hit off of it. TK though, still running TK at a 3 of though. This has always felt really good for me. We have a good plethora of yellow in the deck. We have a decent amount that's not, but thankfully, we have a lot of duo color stuff that is also yellow, so that really helps the TK out, so we don't accidentally have to take out anything that's not. The Zoe's also allowing you that free peek of, okay, well, what do we got in here? Do we have any yellow? Okay, yeah, we've got some yellow. I can play a couple TKs this game. Or it's like, okay, play that first Zoe, and it's all red. Okay, so no TKs, got it. You know, like, it's a great duo combination between these guys. And then to kind of make up for the TKs, we're running the Karis here. Also, we run an insane amount of recovery, which is we've talked about a ton of. So this often reducing the Evo cost of a lot of our cards. Seraphi, Shikuo, Jet, Kari just makes all of those cheaper. Like I almost debate just running more Karis instead of the TK and Kari, just because of how much value she brings to the table with the amount of recovery that we have here. So always debating bumping her up and then bumping these two down, simply because I do so much recovery and I go so offensive that my security is often never lower than my opponent's. This often ends up being my Evo target. It just does. This is, like, I would say 9 times out of 10 is my Evo target. The next one in line, of course, usually is Zoe, but also like TK. If I've got a Kari in play, yeah, TK, you're goodbye. But if not, then yeah, TK and Kari is next up on the list. The DP minusing, the 1000 DP minusing does come up occasionally when you need to swing over something, the right niche situation. So I don't mind that. Nice little bit of versatility in there. That's one of the reasons I do like to keep it in here, is just for the versatility that it brings to the table. And that is it for the main deck there. Now, just some quick cards I want to talk about here at the end. The Rise package and the Shine Greymon as well. But particularly the Rise Greymon package, I am missing the red one in here. But it just kind of felt like how this kept coming back to me is it's too slow for this format. If I'm going to go into this, I get to play out a Tamer, sure. But it's always too slow for me. Getting into like the combinations to get enough damage on board takes time, right? And why I went back to the recovery is because with recovery, I can play this slow game. I can build up some Tamers on board. I can draw into these hybrids and that sort of thing. And then it's like, okay, well, we've taken some damage. It's taken you several rounds to establish this board of Tamers and stuff and get a nice hand. Now it's time to act upon it, right? Well, if you're running the Rise package, when you decide to start acting upon it, all you're doing is just replacing essentially the rookies that you just used to Evo up right into this guy. So we're going to Evo a level 4 on top of a Tamer, and then I'm going to go into Rise Greymon, play out a Tamer that I just took away. That does not help my security situation, where I've taken several hits, and I'm in a real awkward bind now because I've got to put out an incredible amount of damage to catch up to my opponent, or control their field and pray they don't have anything in raising area that I can't touch. There's just too much that the Rise Greymon package, it just does not answer. And that really comes back to the recovery issue of, if you don't have enough recovery, this deck is too slow on its own to deal with your opponent, and how much damage the decks of this format can put out. Yeah, this is a cool deck. It's fun. The Rise Greymon package is really fun. Maybe last format, like Rise Greymon last format would have been really cool. The X Antibody one in combination with it would have been super, super cool. Again, last format was significantly slower. Now we have to deal with Grandis, we have to deal with Alphamon, we have to deal with Armor Rush. I mean, yeah, last format we also had Imperial too, so that was kind of an issue with it. But yeah, the format is too fast for this too slow of a strategy. The only way you can play a slow strategy is if you've got recovery to bolster your security back up to make up for all that time that you spent establishing this stack, okay? And just replacing tamers on field after you go into the stack isn't enough. I mean, you can do some really cool things, some really powerful removal of things on field. And again, in this format, everything that's going to be the biggest problem for you is all the crap in raising area that's just waiting until they've got their stack, and once they promote up, that's the turn they're swinging. The turn they promote is the turn they're going to end you, okay? So the fact that you're going to remove their stack after that, it doesn't matter. You've already lost. They've already cleared everything you have and just taken you to lunch. So that's why I ended up not going with the Shine Greymon package or the Rise package, is just because it's too slow for this format. It is very fun. It is very neat. But just the deck is too slow to also have this strategy in here that doesn't help our security situation to combat the current meta. And that's all it is. It's just the meta doesn't support this sort of control style of removing things off the field. Maybe in another format, these guys could definitely come back. But in these hide and raising area formats, it's just not going to fly, unfortunately.